GKD is a brand that I owned a couple of devices from, and I must say that I was very pleased to see that they finally got themselves a Plus edition. But is this thing late to the party? That is something we're going to find out today. Because in this overkill of devices coming out from China, yeah, you know, this thing is not cheap and this is not like a budget device. It comes with a hefty price tag and does have like some pretty damn cool, let's say, upgrades to it. So you can order this thing just like the GKD Mini Plus, but you can also order it with the case and the upgrade. And I can tell you already, this mini upgrade dock is absolutely worth the money because it makes this thing so much more comfortable. So first of all, I really love the brand, the way how the quality is, especially when it comes to the previous models. But the unfortunate thing is with the previous model, it was absolutely late to the party. So when it was released, it was completely underpowered, and besides having very nice quality, I found it a little bit of a bummer. Come out of that box. What is inside the package? That is always the question. It comes with a very nice long Type-C or USB-C cable. Then in here we're going to have ourselves an extra front glass or protector. So that's kind of cool, to be honest. And also quite unique in my opinion. The toilet paper manual deluxe, and in two languages. The Chinese language and the English. So what is very interesting that they implemented this is the software quick keys. Here you can just see all of the combinations that you need to use actually for having, let's say, for example, rotation screen, filter switch, and etc. And the quality pass. And I'm always wondering with these things, seriously, did you really check everything? But let's take a close look at the device itself. So when the first time I was holding this in my hand, I noticed that it's quite similar to the previous model. So it is purely not a cosmetic, but a hardware upgrade. And that's good, because I really love the way how this thing looked. The only downside I found about it is the way how you need to hold it. The positioning, it's not, let's say, the worst console ever, but the way just how it played was not perfect. And with the mini dock, oh boy, I am so happy they giving you the option to buy it. Yeah, to be honest, you should buy it because it makes this thing so much better. There is a metal version out there I love to review here on the channel. So they implemented some extra rubber for giving it a very nice slide with the resistance. And this is basically his final form, the ultimate fusion. And oh man, this is so much better because now you can actually hold it over here. We even have an additional two joysticks. I have brain farts all night. And we can just use it if you want to play these games. Nevertheless, the D-pad is absolutely on the right position, and this is just great. Also, when you want to use the back buttons, everything can be reached fairly easy, and that's due of the very nice round shape. I think the metal case is just one, let's say, device and not the fusion possibility. But I think it's absolutely a big upgrade, and now it's absolutely the Plus edition. But let's do a quick overview of the device. So first of all, the D-pad. So it comes with a very nice curve, not unusual that we have seen before, but also the touch itself. It is not a very long traveled D-pad, and just the feedback of this thing, it is absolutely amazing. I love this. But how about the D-pad with fighting games? I can tell you that the feel, the resistance is absolutely perfect. They nailed it with this particular handheld, and I think that's one of those key features I just love about this thing. It's great, but also when it comes to the overall performance of the emulation, it's just absolutely great. Yep, I love it. That makes me, like, again, excited. And in combination with the extra piece of plastic they attach under it, or the docking, it is more comfortable, and yeah, it's just absolutely amazing to play these games. The A and B buttons are very tiny, and normally I hate this, but when you're just feeling it like this is more like my wicked test. I'm going to feel ASMR, and you can just feel that it is absolutely great. And the reason why, because of the, let's say, the shape of the buttons, there's a little bit of a wiggle to it, but not, let's say, cheap wiggle. And the way how it feels and how it presses is absolutely great. I love it. I'm in love with these buttons. Let's do this for 5 minutes. In the middle, we're going to get micro switch buttons and 2 buttons, and most of them are mapped to certain, let's say, navigation things in the software itself. I already mentioned that we're having 2 joysticks. Both have the click, similar to the Nintendo Switch, and at the bottom, we're going to having the Type-C, and then having the jack out. At the left we're going to have extra buttons, and at the top we're going to also having 2 SD cards. So first of all, what I find very interesting but also strange, yeah, they have their own freaking SD cards. We have the GKD SD card, that is the firmware, and yep, they're using the same crappy brandless crap. Oh, I really hate it. I wish they're just using Samsung or other brands from China that are not getting corrupted out of nothing. But you always need to make a backup of these things. The on and off switch, and over here we do have a physical volume. And already mentioned before, when it comes to the back buttons, they are absolutely like very nicely to press, especially when you're just holding it like this. It's not the best, but, and that's due of the different, I say, height normally where they're having with some of the back buttons, but just the placement and everything, I am, yeah, I would say not, let's say, super hyped about it, but it works pretty damn well. But next up, let's boot up the device, and oh man, I just realized something. I didn't shut it down last time. Crap, I need to charge it first. But the speaker of this thing, I love it. It's not front facing, but we do have stereo speakers. But another thing is, if you're going to grab this piece of equipment, you're basically covering up the port itself. And you will have, I say, a downside to this. One of the key features that's absolutely a big plus on this is the display itself, where it's in a very nice resolution, but also the IPS panel looks amazing. Even on a certain angle you can just see how colorful and vibrant it is. So one of the familiar chips we're seeing here is the ROG chip, the 3566. So we have some minor differences between handhelds, but they're mostly coming with a quad core. This is actually running 1.8 GHz. A 3.5 inch display with a resolution of 640 by 480 and 3000 mAh battery that will give you around 6 up to 8 hours of game time depending what you're playing, and we do have different connections. But one of the cool features of this device is that we're having these very nice LEDs indicating the battery life. So it's charging now, so let's charge it before we're going to be going any further with the video, but it's also a very cool thing to show you over here. And what I also find really cool, that they are not super bright and very annoying. So after a couple of hours of charging, it's finally fully charged. But let's take a close look at the menu itself. So pressing the shoulder buttons, you can change between the kind of subjects or different kind of programs or the folders. So it's kind of similar to the Open Dingo situation back in the day with the first generation of these devices. But you can choose an emulator and boot it up like this. It's going to be a lot of hassle. But what I do find kind of cool, to be honest, if you're going to booting up the emulation station over here, the front end, pressing A, it will basically give you a very nice front end. And it will bring you from, let's say, the main menu to the front end, and this part. We can choose your games. I already booted up a couple of times, so it will boot up quite fast, but the first time it will take some time. Let's say a minute or two. But in here we're finding all of the emulators that we can actually play with this thing. The support is similar to different devices that we've seen before, like Ergonomic and PowKitty. Those devices have all kinds of, let's say, Bottleshare or Emulation device software on it, and this is nothing different. In here we're finding all kinds of cool devices like the Game Boy Classic all the way up to Sega Dreamcast. In this video I will test out some old school games, but I particularly want to check out some Sega Dreamcast and PlayStation Portable and N64 of course. But with specifications like this, we're not going to have a lot of, let's say, overall great performance. The downside also is with this particular one, some have extra folders attached to it, but everything is in an Asian language. So it's completely useless in my opinion. And yeah, that is something they should fix. But let's get into the gameplay and emulation and let's see what we're actually going to get. When booting up a game, you're going to have the option to create or start an autosave or start a new game. So when you're making a save slot over here, let's boot up the game. And we'll give you, by the way, later on the option to have a quick screenshot and a quick save of the certain part of the game. But first off, I wanted to start when it comes to some PlayStation 1. And I can tell you, this runs absolutely great. It's a native resolution, but I think it's not a big of a deal whatsoever. Joystick is mapped from the emulator itself. Next up, some Sega Dreamcast, but I just wanted to showcase that also some of the emulators have been set to the analog stick, so that works pretty damn great out of the box. But how is with the overall emulation performance? The reason I always choose Dead Alive, besides I love Dead Alive too, it's that this is a great overall, let's say, test how it will run. For Dreamcast, we do have amazing overall performance. But when it comes to overall emulation of the Dreamcast, it's absolutely amazing, and we do get some great overall performance, what I find really pleasant, because this is one of my favorite systems to play on the go. In combination with the display, it's absolutely great. No stutters whatsoever, great D-pad, nice comfortable handheld. So let's take a close look at some PlayStation Portable, and where this system does have overall okay performance, take consideration that not every single game will run perfectly. So Wipeout is absolutely one of my favorite games to play on PlayStation Portable. This needs frame skip set to 1, otherwise it is absolutely, in my opinion, playable. And still, if you're having frame skip set to 1, you will find some minor hiccups here and there. And when it comes to Wipeout, it completely ruins the fun in my opinion. But let's take a close look at some old school games, and this system is absolutely great for that. But let's be honest, there are so many different devices now that are like a fraction of the cost that can actually play this. So if you want to get into, let's say, some old school games, maybe this GKD is way overpriced in my opinion, where it does come with a beautiful display. So one of my old school classic games, GoldenEye. Also here the joystick seems to be working just fine, but when you're going to get into the gameplay, yep, it's already stuttering from the freaking main menu. It's speeding up now, so that's great. Let's boot it up. But let's get into the gameplay itself. Man, this takes forever. But there we go. There's where the stuttering starting. You can just actually hear that the audio is completely glitching out. So it's an overall mixed performance when it comes to M64, like already expected. So the character has been set to this particular D-pad over here. Yeah. Now what you can actually do is try to play, but this is not really comfortable. And I'll let you see what I mean. So this is where this thing is not great when it comes to the overall like configuration. I mean, you need to hold your hands like this. Here you can use the character like movement, and there we're having this L2 for freaking shooting. Like, man, this is just unplayable. Man, this is really uncomfortable. You know, and that is what I mean beside the emulation performance. It's pointless. I really hate playing N64 on things like this. Let's move into the Nintendo DS, because I get a lot of comments of people wanting to see this more often. And this is one of those great handhelds that runs pretty good. But first of all, let's talk about the way how everything works. So we're having this quick button over here where you can switch the screens. We have another button over here. Can you choose for vertical or horizontal? And this particular button will give you one single menu or one single display, and then we can switch with the other button between the displays. So that's actually how it is and how it will work, but the overall performance is pretty good in my opinion. But this is actually the way I want to play, because this looks absolutely great. There are certain games where you need to switch between. This is just actually a map, so it's not a lot of an extra, let's say, an overall experience. So you can actually play Metal Slug without any problems. So this works pretty damn good, and the overall emulation works very well, I can tell you that. The GKD is absolutely an improvement when you're looking at the previous models, but is it again late to the party? I think it's just on time, with all of the cool things, let's say, you're having with this particular device. It's a nice quality device, but you really need to have that freaking docking, otherwise it's not going to be very comfortable to play. The overall quality of the display is great, and just the features and all of the overall quality of the products, I do like it. Especially the D-pad, because, oh man, I love this thing for that. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it will be great to see you in the next video.